Hello Yu-Gi-Oh players and welcome to Yu-Gi-Oh! Business Casual. I am your host, the RJB0. So apparently this is the new angle at which all discussion videos must be filmed, slightly angular and speaking off into the distance, as if you have an imaginary friend somewhere there who's actually interested in listening to us talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! So to aid myself in the process of becoming more trendy, I'm speaking at the wasp that's sitting in the garden chair across from me. I'm not talking about a boring white person, I'm talking about the actual, yellow and black thing. Anyway, that weird-ass rant aside, today is Thursday, which means it is time, once again, for Economic Yu-Gi-Oh! And last week I didn't make an Economic Yu-Gi-Oh! Video, and I was kind of annoyed, but that was because I was on the road, and it would have been kind of awkward for me to talk endlessly about Yu-Gi-Oh! And economics in a car with 4 total strangers for 6 hours. But today I'm bringing you guys the 4th principle of economics according to Paul Krugman and Robin Wells, which is that people generally respond to incentives to make themselves better off. And this is very true for Yu-Gi-Oh! And actually understanding this concept and thinking it through, both when you are trying to make trades and while you're in the game, can help you with both endeavors. So let's start off with trades. Building your binder based on this principle. So one of the things I've been doing recently, as a bit of an anecdotal example, is that I have been trading for Constellar Pleiades. Why? Well, because artifacts and what are they called? Chronomalies are going to be things in the near future, and both of them can abuse the crap out of Constellar Pleiades. And so I believe that Constellar Pleiades is going to see a few dollars jump in price in the near future. So I have been making trades for Pleiades, but I've also been doing it at about $1 under price each time. So when I trade with a person, they perceive themselves to be getting the better end of the deal. They believe that since they are receiving a current value that is greater than the value of the Pleiades that they are trading to me, that they are receiving a good deal. And they are. In the short run. In the long run, however, I am going to be making a profit, and that's because people are more likely to make a trade when they think that they're getting the better end of the deal. And in this case, both of us are getting good deals, because they're trading the Pleiades for a greater value than its current value, and I'm getting the Pleiades for a lesser value than what I'm probably going to be trading it away for. So when you are creating a binder, when you are trying to build up a collection to sell, remember that people usually respond to incentives to make themselves better off, and you can actually use that in order to make your trades more advantageous. But in-game, this is also very relevant, because while people are playing, you have to assume that your opponent is going to make plays that put them in a better position. That's just the way it is. I don't usually try to plan for misplays, because planning for misplays is planning for your opponent to be bad, and that's not necessarily going to happen. You have to play as if your opponent is going to try and make the best play possible based on the knowledge you already have. So if you already have evidence to show that your opponent doesn't have the best play possible, then you don't act, of course, on the assumption that they make the best play possible. For instance, if they duality and they revealed a card that they only had one of in their deck, that would have made the ideal play, but they put that back into the deck, you know that they don't have that play available, which means that you can't assume that they have the optimal play. But in general, you have to assume that your opponent is going to make plays that make themselves better off. That's just the way that the game works. I shouldn't have to explain that. So the way that you can exploit that is making your opponent think that they're better off than they are. If your opponent is going to look at your board and make the inference that you don't have something that can stop one of their plays, or that you don't have your own optimal play, then they're going to go for what they perceive to be the optimal play at the time, which can include overextending, it can include not setting up to take on your optimal play. So this is all really a mind game. And this is one of the things I talk about when I talk about mirror force theory. One of my favorite things to do with mirror force, and I think it's the only good way to use mirror force, is to put enough pressure on your opponent to make them actually put cards on the board. That's step one. But the second step, and that's the one that's relevant to this particular principle of economics in Yu-Gi-Oh!, is to make your opponent think that they can make plays, that they can overextend safely. Then when they end up attacking, you take down their entire board. If you just fire off the mirror force, the second that you can get a plus off of it, you're not going to get the optimal play out of that mirror force. You have to make your opponent assume that they are going to be able to get more out of overextending themselves than they will out of conserving their field. So you have to put pressure on your opponent, you have to make them assume that you do not have a way of stopping those plays. So while you're in game, you can use people's attempts to make themselves better off in the game against them. you can put people into positions where if they played conservatively, they could be okay, but the amount of pressure that you're putting on them makes them want to try and overextend themselves in order to put themselves in a better position, and that will usually lead right into a trap. They'll overextend themselves to put something like an Exciton Knight on the board and you can Black Horn of Heaven it, or something like that. So that is the fourth principle of economics. I'm sure you guys can come up with more ways to use this in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! But that's my discussion on it. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, hit that thumbs up button. If you didn't, let me know why in the comment section below, and let me know if I should do this camera angle thing more often. I suppose I should get with the trends in Yu-Gi tubing. Anyway, meanwhile, subscribe for more decks discussion, analysis, and general Yu-Gi-Oh! Shenanigans. Thank you guys for watching Yu-Gi-Oh! And Business Casual. I'm your host, the RJB0, and I gotta jet. See you guys.